Hi, everyone. Welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home. I'm Jenelle Riley. I'm an editor at Variety, and I just want to let you know that the SAG-AFTRA Foundation has a COVID-19 relief fund to support SAG-AFTRA artists with basic needs like rent, food, and healthcare costs during this global pandemic and industry shutdown. Donations are 100% tax deductible and directly support performers in dire need. Information on how you can support this effort can be found in the description of this video. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Andre Braugher. Thank you so much for being here. I actually want to go back to the beginning. This is mainly an audience of SAG-AFTRA actors who watch us. So how did you get your SAG card?
I got my SAG card. I got my SAG card on the movie Glory.
Wow.
Yeah, so this was, I guess we started filming February of '89. And so February of '89, that's when I got my SAG card. So that's when I started.
That's fantastic. Most people say they got it from some like McDonald's commercial or some low budget horror films, but this was an Academy Award, nominated winning movie.
It was my first sort of journey into feature film. So a lot of it is a blur, but I learned a lot. Denzel and Morgan especially really wrapped their arms around my shoulders and sort of led me through the process of how to act for camera. So I remember it fondly. It's now 30 years now, but yes, I remember it fondly because they're consummate professionals and really sweet gentlemen, and they were instrumental really in making sure that I was on the right path during the course of that film.
They're not only great actors you can learn from, but from everything I've heard, they set a great example on set.
They do.
Yeah, so that's a really fantastic first job in front of a camera. Did you think it would just be all downhill from there? Because
I didn't know because I had no context. I went directly from Coriolanus at the Public Theater to Savannah, Georgia to do Glory. And I really didn't have a understanding or a sense of what being in a feature film meant, It all sort of became clear because it's not the hard work on set, it's not the boot camp and the 4 months in Georgia doing the film. It's really the pomp and circumstance that surrounds the making of the film that sort of gives you context when you see and hear how excited people are, how moved they are by the film. That's when it sort of really struck me. But during the making of the film, as my fellow actors know, it's all hard work and sweat and slogging through the mud.
And here we are, a little over 30 years later. You just received your 11th Emmy nomination for your work as Captain Raymond Holt on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. You, of course, made history when you won your first Emmy in 1998 for your role on Homicide. I know it's kind of a cliche question, but I always like to ask, how did you find out about this nomination and what was your reaction?
I found out through text. I was very surprised because in a certain way, once you sort of fall out of the nomination sort of routine, so after the first 3 nominations in a row, I had sort of fallen out of that group, and which was expected, but also appropriate because there's so much good work going on, and other actors are it's important that they be highlighted and affirmed for the quality of their work. So I learned by text, after the nominations were announced, and I was surprised. There's no doubt about it, because I kind of felt like the Emmys had moved on to another group of actors, and so it is my 11th. I'm gonna go to the Emmys, see what that's like. And if I'm fortunate enough to win, it's because, I'm working with really good writers and really good actors. And it's really much more, it's really much more about the people that I'm working with, the army that it takes to make a television and film. I couldn't have done it without them. So it really speaks to the quality of my co-collaborators, that this award, that the nomination actually came my way.
Was it a flurry of texts of people congratulating, or just one text?
Like 15, 20, you know what I mean?
That's a flurry.
Mostly, people that I know, friends and relatives, and the people on my team, people from NBC and such.
I mean, Brooklyn Nine-Nine just came off its 7th season, I believe. And I feel like it just keeps getting better and better. It was a fantastic season. I think especially for you, Wunsch's funeral was one of my favorite episodes of all time. And obviously Cheddar's kidnapping really gave you a chance to do some new stuff. But I actually want to go back to the beginning. How did this role find its way to you, and what interested you in being a part of this fantastic ensemble?
The role came my way because Mike Schur and Dan Gore offered it to me. I had no comedy connections. I had never been on a sitcom in my life. I didn't know them, nor was I a part of the circle. And we sat down and had a 1-hour Skype session and really talked through the role and what their intentions were with the character. I read the script. I watched Parks and Rec, just to remind myself of the quality of their work. I was struck by the transformation in Parks and Rec from the first season to the second season. I remember that first season, the characters were dark. It was a dark world that they created. And I think in a certain way, it was a part of the influence of The Office. But that second year when they came back, they had made a startling sort of transformation, and the characters were not nearly so hard-hearted, or or pranksterish and that kind of stuff. So I felt like I would be in good hands with the show. And once we had a conversation about the nature, the reasoning behind Captain Holt being Captain Holt's sexuality, being a police captain who's gay in the New York Police Department, having dealt with years of discrimination, both for his sexual orientation as well as his race. Once we talk through some of those questions, I feel like I'm dealing with sane people, for whom the character is not simply a stereotype. And that gives me confidence. I've signed a lot of contracts, 6- and 7-year contracts. And it's always shocking to realize that you may start out on one thing, but you have no idea what it's going to become. So I did as much sort of digging as I could, to figure out who it was I was going to be collaborating with. And after that, it's just a roll of the dice, and sometimes it's worked out perfectly, and sometimes the show has changes right under your the ground shifts right under your very feet. That happened in Gideon's Crossing, that happened in Hack, that happened with the TV show I did about 7 years ago, Last Resort. So you try the best you can to vet the people that you're working with, to understand what their sensibilities are, what their tastes are. But in final analysis, that signing of the contract is really a trip into a sort of artistic tunnel, and you never know when you're going to come out, when you're going to hit the light. So that's the nature and the kind of research that I did on Dan and Mike.
When you said you didn't have any comedy contacts, had you done much comedy before? Because you're really known for these very intense roles.
Yeah, I'm known for intense roles, but at a certain point, one needs a break, And so I said to myself, I need to learn something new from people who are excellent at what they do. And Andy has a superb reputation. He's a really hardworking, ambitious guy, who I think understands the kind of comedy that he does. So many different kind of comedians come together on the show, because I wouldn't lump Andy and Chelsea and Joe Latrulio and Terry all in the same basket, but they're all comedians. So I learned something new from each and every one of them. Entering into a comedy world, but we're all learning. I've seen immense growth from the people who are not comedians in the show. And that's really a testament to how fine the writing is, how good the directors are we're working with, and I mean, it's hard to believe. I mean, we're 8 seasons in. I mean, there's going to be an 8th season, knock wood. And the quality of the show has not declined yet, and I've been on so many shows and I'm able to identify the script that marks the top, and every subsequent script is a little bit shallower, a little bit poorer, and this show has yet to peak. And so I'm really happy about that because the writing is the foundation of everything we do.
I think one of the reasons Holt is so funny is he doesn't know he's funny. He's actually being very serious, and there's humor in that. And I actually don't think he's sort of cut a little from the same cloth as Frank Pembleton, who you played on Homicide. They're very different characters, but I feel like they'd get along.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure Frank would fall in line. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I agree.
I think there would be mutual respect there. And you've mentioned some of these cast members. I truly believe Brooklyn Nine-Nine has the best ensemble on TV. Every single role is an all-star, from Terry Crews and Andy Samberg, and you get to work a lot with Mark Evan Jackson, who plays your husband Kevin. Who are some of your favorite scene partners? Oh, and you can talk about guest stars because, of course, Kira Sedgwick and you together is dynamite.
Kira's always been my favorite because, she's just always been my favorite because this rivalry between Holt and Wunsch is just delightful. And that petty side of Holt is a lot of fun to play, There's obvious sexual tension from the very beginning between these two characters. That's why they go at it, in that way. But like this season has demonstrated, they needed each other in a certain way to drive their own kind of excellence. So I was really happy with that Kira was on the show, and she directed an episode in the last season, the 7th season, and she's quite a fine director. So I've been very pleased to make her acquaintance, all these years.
Did they warn you in advance that they were going to kill off the character? Did you know that was coming?
A couple of episodes before, yeah, I knew it was coming. Yeah. And I'm sad, but
What is the atmosphere on set like? Because I think I would just be afraid of ruining takes constantly by laughing.
I used to pride myself on not breaking, but after the stuff's funny, so it's still a good working environment. After 7 years, there's a kind of routine that we've gotten into, and we're all veterans with the show. We understand our characters very well. The tone is crystal clear to all of us. The challenges that we have are organic, interesting, and so consequently, I think we have a lot of fun. The filming is very efficient. Rarely do we go 12 hours. Most times it's somewhere between 8 and 10, and that's great. And so I feel like it's very workmanlike, but we get along very well and we work together very well. So I would have to say it's a very pleasant place to work.
Some of your co-stars were in last year, and they said that even if you do break, you don't let them see it. You basically make a sound and walk away.
You said they were in. What do you mean?
Oh, they came into the SAG-AFTRA Foundation.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You and Andy weren't able to make it, but I think pretty much everyone else was there.
Okay.
Yeah. And they said that you do break from time to time, but you do it very quietly.
Right. Well, it's a funny set, and the quality of the writing is held up. So you can't ask for more.
And by the way, I want to remind everyone watching at home, if you have any questions, just put them into the YouTube comments area. We're getting a lot of congratulations on the nominations, but if there's some questions, just let me know. Also there's that old saying, never work with animals or children, but Holt and Kevin have this dog Cheddar who's a total scene stealer. And
Yeah, Stuart the dog, who we had for 6 years, and his sister Stella, who we have now. They're identical. I mean, you couldn't even tell it wasn't Stuart. They're good dogs. I mean, their best trick, of course, is coming to eat the treat that's in your hand, you know. But during the course of the heist, there's a lot of sort of like tricks that Cheddar has to be involved in. So they train these dogs quite well. But once again, it's always true. They are dogs, you know, so everything revolves around the quality of their training. Then when they get to the set, there are 40 people making noise. You know what I'm saying? So it's always a little tricky, you know, getting them to do the tricks. But very sweet animals, both of them. You know, R.I.P. for Stuart. But they're all very sweet.
And you had a great episode this year that sort of focused on Cheddar's kidnapping. I think we got to see a really emotional side of Holt. Was that fun to play?
It was. I was a little stunned when I read the script because it actually does have a climactic street fight, you know, with a car chase and, you know, killer lines and, you know, heroic action. I was a little stunned by that because I said to myself, it feels a little out of character for Holt to be on the street pursuing criminals, but I had a lot of fun doing that. I had our stunt coordinator is Dynamite, and since I've done stunts my entire career, you know, the vocabulary was very easy to sort of pick up, and he has great stunt doubles. So I had a really fun time working on that show because it's been quite a long time since I've been asked to engage in a street fight. So it was a lot of fun.
It made sense, though, because the season started out with Holt back on the street, having been demoted. So maybe he picked up some of those street skills.
I would have to say so. Holt learned his own neighborhood. I think he became a little more humble. There's the things that he learned from his patrol officers and vice versa, you know, that were quite helpful. And then Vanessa Bayer came through for 4 episodes, 3 or 4. I can't remember the very beginning of the season. And she did a dynamite job as my partner. So I had a really good time.
She was amazing. What ended up being the most challenging part of this season? Was there a particular episode, or maybe it was just things like having to dance to Salt and Pepper? I said Peppa, sorry.
Let me see. The dance was tough. There's no doubt about it. Aerobically, the dance was very tough. And the heist was a tremendous amount of fun. Very confusing. A lot of costume changes. But the heist was a lot of fun. The heist is typically my favorite episode in every season.
Yeah. That dance, actually, I saw they uploaded some like rehearsal video, and it's hard because those are actually like fast moves, and Terry Crews is like just a naturally gifted dancer, and you really kept up with him.
Yeah, Terry has it all. I remember going back and looking at the original Salt and Pepper video, of which we couldn't actually take any of the moves because they're trademarked or copyrighted or something to that effect. But so we invented our own moves, you know, or took from the huge vocabulary of hip hop dance moves. Yeah, it's so aerobic. You know what I mean? So hip hop dancers are young for a reason because it's continuous motion and really the hardest thing is to develop a vocabulary for the dance, to work my way through it moment by moment organically, but you know that's hard for a non-dancer. You know, I think if I had another week, I could have been but you know.
I don't know that Holt should be too good, though. Right. You know what I mean?
Well, I think Andre wanted to be good, so that's what.
We have some questions from the audience. Forgive me in advance if I butcher anyone's name. We have a question from Mimi, wants to know, since we were talking about Kira Sedgwick directing, are you considering spending any time directing?
No, it's not my thing. I kind of feel like other people are really, really good at it. We've been blessed with a lot of really terrific directors. It's not something I'm I'm anxious to do, so I think I'll leave it to people who I know are much better at it.
It's hard. I don't think I have that kind of mind that could do that, and I definitely don't have the patience. So I totally respect actors who openly say, like, no, I don't think it's for me. Do you have a favorite Holt moment? I mean, there's so many. I'm actually part of a texting group that just sends Holt quotes back and forth. And you've become such a meme. There's so many gifs of you. I don't know if you've seen all of them going around.
I haven't, but it's 140 episodes, and the show's changed a little bit from the very beginning. Favorites? God, I can't even remember how many we've done. We've done 140 episodes. There was the episode where we both had the mumps, which was a lot of fun doing. The prosthetics were difficult to get involved with because it's basically a latex thing that, there's a straw in your mouth, and basically your entire head is covered in latex in order to make a good form of it. So there's a little bit of claustrophobia that comes with doing those kind of special effects, makeup special effects. But I really loved how well they turned out, and then again how much camaraderie there was in that episode, the mumps episode, which the title escapes me, but that's one of my favorites. The dinner party is one of my favorites. That's from, I think, maybe the first season. All of the heists. And this season, the Cheddar episode and Ding Dong the Witch. Yes, Ding Dong. So those are the recent ones that I can remember, but it's just, there's so many. I mean, sorry for my eyes rolling up in the back of my head looking for these episodes, but there've been a lot of them, but I've had a lot of fun over the last 7 years.
I think Safe House might be one of my favorites, and you get one of the biggest laughs and you don't even have to talk. It's you texting, and Raymond keeps signing his texts. Right,
on the bus, yes. Yeah, I remember that.
And of course, my all-time favorite line is seeing you at Moneyball, crying.
Oh, the film Moneyball. Okay, yes. Yeah, Holt is quite an interesting character. You know what I mean? The journey to full-fledged emotion that Holt has taken over these last 7 years has been quite an interesting journey. I mean, it's been quite an interesting journey. So I really appreciate the thought that's gone into crafting this character. My first sort of taste of comedy began with Men of a Certain Age, 2009 to maybe 11. But yeah, the wildness of these kinds of comedies is just fantastic. It's just so joyful, and having been, an investigator or a defense attorney or a prosecutor, the kind of research that you have to go into to reach these places, it's all murder and mayhem, you know what I mean? So, and I like to do this kind of research, but it gets really dark after a while. You know what I'm saying? It gets dark when you do thief. It gets dark when you do homicide. So actually, it's been a breath of fresh air in my career that basically for the last 10 years, I've been doing comedies where the stakes are not as dangerous and as consequential as the stuff that I did earlier in my career. So I'm really happy about that.
You seem to always get cast as authoritarian figures. Is that something that goes all the way back to high school?
It's the voice. It's the voice and the demeanor in a certain way. I can't get away from it. I'm always looking for a role that's not the stereotype. I've turned down a lot of sort of copycat roles. That are basically seeking to do the same thing that Hack or Homicide had done. And, I just continue to need a new kind of challenge, acting challenge. And so these last 10 years of comedy have been really sort of spiritually they've been uplifting. I would have to say the most fun I've had in my career have been the last 10 years, working with Ray Romano and working with Dan Gore as showrunners has been a really incredible experience. And of course, I'm going back to drama because I'm looking for another compelling role. I don't know what that's going to be, but this time has been superb. Usually when I work, I devote myself, and I'm fortunate that I can almost entirely to whatever it is that I'm working on. So if you look at my resume, there's a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine and very little other things because I essentially split my time between working on the set and being at home and spending time with my family. So I don't multitask, I don't maintain several characters at the same time. So I think I'm going on to, entirely devote myself to something else, and I don't know what it is. I've been very fortunate to be able to do that.
We have a lot of questions asking about the new season, wanting to know if you know what's happening yet, if they've started writing scripts. I know that the creators have talked about, I think, basically having to scrap their original plans due to the current political tensions with the real police departments. Do you know anything about the new season?
About the storylines of the new season, I don't. We had a huge sort of Zoom conference call maybe 3 weeks or a month ago. We went through a training with an organization called Color of Change. We spent a lot of time learning about and breaking down some of the mythologies, unhelpful mythologies that have been created around cop shows that unfortunately have educated Americans and created a kind of mythology around police that is extremely unhelpful. The most unhelpful part about it is when cops violate people's rights, when they break the law on TV shows, it's typically in service of some greater good. Kind of mythology that's been built up about it, and the people who are usually the victims of this are people, brown people, Black and brown people. So part of what we need to do is hold a mirror up to life in the next season and really discuss what it is, deal with, dissect, illuminate, and reveal what's happening inside the police department, because everyone can see for themselves that civilian control is not a thing in the NYPD or throughout the country. Training is lacking. And there's a whole propaganda buildup around cops to the point that, in essence, between the law and the mythology buildup around them, they're immune from the kind of criticism and the kind of consequences that every other American is subject to. They are not bound by the law, but they are protected in a way that gives them a kind of super citizenship, that there's one class of citizenship reserved for every American, and there's a super class of citizenship that's been created ad hoc for the police department. And that needs to be scrapped. It needs to be turned aside because any time that you have the power of life and death without the possibility of consequences, cops are not angels, they're human beings. And so clearly overextending their power, corruption, abuse is going to flourish. And so that's something that we as Americans are going to have to deal with. Everyone deals with it in different ways. There's no way to anticipate where the news is going to be. Not today, and especially not tomorrow, because this Jacob Blake's being shot by the police 7 times in the back in front of his kids, is a travesty. The town is in flames because of poor training and lack of civilian control, So people are deputizing themselves to go out and shoot other people on the street, deputizing themselves, And so this is a matter of tremendous concern. I don't have an answer. We as Americans are going to have to discover an answer. And the unfortunate part about it is that there's a lot of anguish, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering that goes with making these changes, but they're fundamental because I don't believe that we can survive on this path, survive as a nation on this path. It's of paramount importance that we deal with this.
And I have such faith in the Brooklyn Nine-Nine writers and creators that they will do something smart and true, and they will also be funny, when they need to be.
Yeah, you never know. When you go out on a limb, you can't guarantee that you're not going to fall on your face. But I think I'm really proud of our writing staff and our producers and NBC for supporting the storytelling that's much more realistic and I think humane. This is a show that's gotten a huge following among young people because it tells the truth, because it holds a mirror up to life, because it acknowledges, the wackiness and the unfairness sometimes of life. This is a show that people trust to tell the truth. And I think we're in a position to honor the trust that they put in us by going out on a limb to try in our own way, acknowledging that this is a comedy, to try to tell the truth, to hold the mirror up to life. I don't know what that's going to be like, but I'm glad to be associated with a show that's attempting to do that.
Yeah. I just want to close out with some sort of fun questions we have from people. Daniel Weiss wants to know, does the rest of the cast feel like they have to work out harder because of Terry?
I don't work out harder because of Terry. No, bloody bunch. There's no doubt about it. Terry works out twice a day, and sometimes I see him running across the lot because he's done his leg or shoulder or arm, whatever body part he's working that day. And then he runs, I don't know, for like 30 minutes, before he comes to work, and then he goes home and he works out. So he's dedicated. He's much more dedicated than I am.
We have a lot of Homicide fans here. Zachary says, Homicide made me a lifelong fan. Do you have a favorite Frank Pembleton moment? And David Neil Levin wants to know if there's anything you wish Frank could have gotten the chance to do.
Well, I would say in the 6 years I was on the show, I got a chance to do it all. Once again, Tom Fontana, Jim Yashimura, excellent writers. Once again, I'm blessed, to have been associated with those guys. I guess the pivotal moment for me in the entire series was when Frank had a stroke. That's the axis around which his character pivots for the entire 6 seasons. Because, when you first meet him, he's first among equals. He's, a loner, and he's brilliant, and he plays by his own rules. This, once again, the mythology that I was talking about earlier, surrounding cops. And by the end of the 6 seasons, he's a much more humble man. And I think he's much more aware of the limits of his personal ethics. He's much more aware of how far you can go about applying that to other people. He's much gentler and more understanding. And it's a transformation that was a lot of fun for me to go through because, I needed something after 4 seasons. 4 seasons? Yeah. I needed something after those 4 seasons. I needed an opportunity to do something different because essentially we had told every story twice or 3 times, so I felt like if something didn't shake up the Pembleton character, he was headed to a place of like an almost caricature place, even though they're terrific writers. At a certain point, if you don't shake it up, then you wind up really perfecting your own version of a stereotype. So,
Jim Hoffmaster has a great question. Is there any difference in terms of your process between comedy and drama?
No, I think acting is acting. I have to say, the biggest lesson I learned from comedy, because I was insecure when I first started in that first season, I was a little bit freaked out by the pace and the speed of the comedic minds around me, the fact that we weren't rehearsing, we hadn't figured out the story. The biggest lesson for me was calm down, and that's it's easier said than done. But at a certain point, mostly through coaching with my wife, it was about how best to internalize these things and relax into the comedy. So I would have to say season 2 and 3 were much more fun for me because I discovered a sort of process that still involved the same amount of research, but was just easier, more relaxed.
And finally, Christina Floriza has a question. What acting challenges have you not yet had that you would love to tackle?
Well, I've never been on Broadway.
Really?
Yeah. I was rehearsing a show called Birthday Candles, starring Deborah Messing at the Roundabout Theater in New York when they shut everything down. They closed Broadway. Stay-at-home orders were issued in New York and New Jersey. So we were 2 weeks into rehearsal there, and we're still trying to resurrect that show. It's a really lovely play. And I couldn't imagine a more fun and interesting piece to make a debut with. But that's on my bucket list. And to get back into feature film, independent filmmaking. It's not like it was 20 years ago, but all of the streaming channels are making really, really interesting shows. The content is so interesting these days, you know what I mean? It's so open, and so many different kind of filmmakers and storytellers are getting a chance to do that.
Do you mind if I ask what are some of the shows you like watching? Especially now that we're in this lockdown period, I'm discovering a lot of older shows.
Unfortunately, I've disconnected almost completely from television and film and podcasts and all these other different things. I do much more reading. That's just what's happening lately. Usually I'm there with my army, and I'm very interested in what's going on, in the business. But since March, I have to confess, I haven't seen anything. I don't know anything. Sorry.
That's fine. I was just trying to think of some recommendations I could give you. Watch Watchmen. That's the one that I would push. Yeah. Well, I cannot wait to see what's in store. I hope you guys can get back to work safely soon because it's such a fantastic show. And like I said, it just keeps getting better and better. And on behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, we just want to thank you for joining us and sharing your experiences, process, and craft with all your fellow performing artists. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.